Good evening, everyone. Please welcome your host for this evening's celebration, Jennifer Solomon Baum, a mother, a friend, a partner, entrepreneur, and global marketing executive. And for tonight, our Be Bold Now MC.
What does it mean to be bold? What is even a bold move? So I asked ChatGPT because that's my latest BFF. So here's the definition. It can mean being daring, demonstrating bravery. It involves taking some kind of risk. And to be bold means activating your fearless, daring spirit. Wow, that's pretty good. It can mean a lot of things, actually. For some of us, it can mean living in a country where we were not born in, speaking a language that is not our first language. Or it can mean raising your hand in front of your friends at school or in a meeting room and just asking that question that no one else is asking actually. So it means many different things. It can also be very scary. You can feel stressed about it and you're like, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if I make a fool of myself? So let me tell you a little story. My latest bold move was actually to go to a couple of conferences and networking events, and I had to introduce myself. And I don't know if you have seen, but there has been quite some changes in the tech and media and advertising industry, so I don't have a job at the moment. And yes, hashtag layoffs. And I think particularly in this country where our identity is so tied to the work that we do, the fancy title that we have, the cool company that gives us instant cachet of who we are. This is hard, you know? And so I wanted to figure out, how do I introduce myself in a meaningful way and kind of memorable way? And this is not a masterclass in personal branding, by the way, but I know some people in the room do this really well. But it was very uncomfortable, and so I probably didn't do too well at first, and then I got it okay, you know, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. But what's important is that I felt really good about it once it was done, because I had done it. So tonight, we have an incredible program for you. And we're gonna hear really interesting stories from incredible change makers. They all have done more than one bold move, in fact. And here they are. And so we hope that by hearing those stories, you're going to feel really inspired to make your next bold move. So by now you have understood that the theme of the night is to make a bold move. So let's do one together. So everyone, please take your phone. Yes, this thing that we love and hate at the same time. Let's take a selfie. I'm going to do that myself because I always wanted to do that. Let's do it. We need to at least take a dozen because, you know, so according to my teenage daughter, let's take a selfie and please post it. We have a couple of hashtags for tonight. We're going to put them on the screen right now. There you go. There you go. It takes a while. So please post them right now on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I didn't realize this was going to be such a noisy activity. Now that you have your cell phone in your hand, please silence it. You know that button on the side? Silence it. Continue to take some pictures. And if I can have everyone be quiet, that would be great as well. Thank you. All right, so continue to post some pictures. And so my name is Jennifer Solomon Baum, JSB for short. There's a lot of Jennifers tonight as well. And I'm a marketing executive. Tonight, I'll be your MC, and I'm so delighted to be in Seattle. It's been a while. And I'm so excited to see the room so full, and you know, it's gonna be a great evening. But before we get into the program, and now that we have actually silenced our phone, we'd like to invite everyone into a moment of grounding ourselves and a little breathing exercise. And to do that, I have the honor of bringing on stage a friend, a former colleague. She's a senior marketing manager at Microsoft as well. She's a new mom. She's a fantastic yoga teacher as well. Chinmay Babashankar. Please welcome on stage.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm here to guide you for the next few minutes in a quick breathing exercise so we can ground and center ourselves and prepare ourselves for the journey, for the stories that are coming your way. So, with that, how about everyone put everything outside of your lap, put it down, keep your hands free. Sit up nice and tall. We'll start with a little bit of neck and shoulder opening, if you will. So just look to your left, look to your right, to your left and right and center. Look up and down and up and down and center. Bring your right ear to your shoulder. Left ear to your shoulder. Really feel that stretch. One more time. And the other side. And center. Now we'll do a quick shoulder roll, intentional and exaggerated. So bring your shoulders forward, up, back, and down. Forward, up, back, and down. Feel those scapula really pinch in the back and stay here for the rest of the session if you can, right? We do this so much. So open up your chest, open up your shoulders. And now soften your gaze. Relax your jaws. And close your eyes. Just bring your focus to your breath. Notice your inhale and your exhale. Notice the chatter that's going on. And bring your focus back to your breath. Now bring your left palm to your chest and your right palm to your belly. And continue to breathe. Often we keep our inhales in our chest, and we're going to try to bring the inhale down to our belly. And I'm going to give you a quick count. We're going to do 4 in, 6 out. Get ready. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Come back to your normal breath. Slowly bow your head, blink your eyes open, and look ahead. I hope you take this throughout the session and also outside of the session throughout your life, in between classes, in between meetings, in between your transitions, between all the different roles that you play in life, and enjoy the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Isn't it amazing how we forget to breathe sometimes? All right, let's remember to do that. It is my pleasure to welcome on stage one of the co-founders of Be Bold Now, Nikki Smith. Woo! Woo!
Well, hello, welcome, and thank you for coming. Do you know this is our 8th annual gathering? Has anyone here been to 7 prior to today? Mel, I can see you. I can see a couple of other hands. How about 7? 6? A couple of hands. Well, I am Nikki Smith, the co-founder and president of Be Bold for Change. And I'm supposed to be standing here with my lovely co-founder, Kate Eisler. However, she recently contracted COVID, traveling for business, I know. And so she rang me today. She is absolutely gutted she can't be here on her most favourite evening of the year. She sends her best wishes, and I know that you'll join me in wishing her a swift recovery. So as JSB said, we're uniting around the theme of bold moves this year. And this call to action deeply resonates with our mission, which is to embolden and equip women, girls, and allies to build an equitable and just world for all. It was over 8 years ago that Kate and I took this audacious decision to launch Be Bold Now. We felt there wasn't any events out there that celebrated the amazing work, often untold and unrecognised work of female changemakers in our community. Now, we continue to take bold moves and bold action. This past year, we established Be Bold Girls. It's our youth branch, and it was a direct consequence of some students attending this event last year. We built a student team, and they designed a program called Transform the Norm. It's a program, a leadership program, designed by girls, for 7th to 12th graders, and I'm delighted I'm going to be able to introduce some of them to you later on. Another bold move we made this year was we went global. We took Be Bold for Change to London. We partnered with Yahoo and Makers, and they gave us their London office, and we invited inspiring speakers like the ones you're going to hear from tonight. And we had an audience of 170 men and women come see what Be Bold Now and Be Bold for Change was all about. It was so well received that now we're speaking to a number of people about how we extend Be Bold Now to new cities and new countries in the future. I also made a bold move this year. After 25 years, I decided to leave Microsoft, a company that I had a brilliant career, and many of the people in this audience are friends that I made whilst working at that company. The reason why I left was I wanted to expand Be Bold for Change. I wanted to take it international, and I wanted to extend the reach of the women and girls we're reaching. I also took the decision to start my own company and become an entrepreneur and build a coaching and training business. This year, we launched Bold Reset, which was a workshop for women to reconsider their goals and build an action plan to drive progress towards them. In addition, JSB, our MC, also partnered with us to build the Bold Collective. It's a community, a supportive community of women who recently lost their jobs through the layoffs. We come together, we bring expert speakers to talk about LinkedIn, personal branding, AI tools, and give them the valuable resources that they need to move to their next career stage and chapter in their life. So now, it's your turn. What bold moves are you considering making this year? We hope tonight that you will feel inspired by our speakers and their stories, and that you will then take bold action that will impact not just you, but also those around you. So I invite you to sit back and enjoy the show.
Way to set the tone for this evening. Amazing. So our first speaker has an incredible story of survival, of grit. He's actually quite emotional as well. Unplanned obstacle in her life made her take quite a few bold moves. She built with her son Ryan the 30/30 project. And so they have built 30 medical facilities in 9 countries for 18 organizations. Julie Lewis, welcome to Be Bold Now.
Well, good evening. Here we are at Be Bold Now. So I have a confession to make. I have not always been a bold person. I discovered at a very early age that being bold meant taking risk. Now, I don't know about you, but I hate risk. Most of my life, I've just taken on things that I was fairly sure I would succeed at. I didn't make big, scary goals because I was too afraid of failure. Well, I want to talk about that fear tonight. But first, I want to transport you back in time to the 1990s. You know, I've been HIV positive for 39 years now. I've taken over 60,000 pills to stay alive. Well, in 1990, I was just a young mom who had recently been diagnosed HIV positive from a blood transfusion I'd received 6.5 years earlier. I was given 3 to 5 years to live, which was a major pivot from the life I had expected. You know, in those first few years, we didn't tell hardly anyone. And then we told our 6-year-old. Well, if you want your personal and private information broadcast to the whole entire world, just tell a 6-year-old. So Ryan and I are in Albertsons, and we're at the checkout. And he looks at the checker and he goes, "Does she know you have AIDS?" And I'm like, "Well, she does now, honey." So since my information was out there, I joined a speakers bureau with about 15 other HIV positive people. I was on that speakers bureau for 10 years, sharing my story in an effort to educate. You know, I did this for purely selfish reasons. You see, I was afraid that my own kids would suffer stigma and discrimination because of a disease that I had. You know, the fear was real. I once had a nurse ask me if I would please swab my own throat because she didn't want to get that close to me. I went into the emergency room with appendicitis, and 12 hours later, after my appendix had ruptured, did they finally find a surgeon who was willing to operate on an HIV positive person. My friend Beverly says to me one day, "Let's just pretend it's cancer." I mean, my God, is that better? I mean, I have all the sympathy in the world for anyone experiencing cancer, but I have never had a friend with cancer who has one of their friends say to them, "Let's just pretend it's AIDS." So in 2014, my kids wanted to do something to celebrate that I had survived 30 years with HIV. And I knew that I wanted it to be a pay it forward kind of project to honor all my friends who had died of AIDS. Joyce, Kara, Cammie, Mary, George, Barry, Craig, Tom, Tony, Mark, Harold, Patrick. I mean, I could just keep going. These people did not make it 30 years. Well, I was at an event for the nonprofit Construction for Change, watching this slideshow of women building a hospital in northern India. The project manager said that these moms were building a hospital because they were tired of their very own kids dying in transport to the nearest medical facility, hours and hours away. Most times, if they even made it there, they would be turned away at the door because they were poor and couldn't pay.
Well, I realized in that moment that my story was totally a story of privilege. It's a story of doctors and hospitals and medicine and health insurance. Most poor women around the world would have just died of the blood loss. There would have been no blood transfusion, no AIDS story. Well, I decided that for my 30 years, I wanted to provide healthcare access to people who didn't have it, like these women in India. So my big idea, my big plan, was to have my family raise enough money to build one healthcare facility somewhere in the world that lacked healthcare access. And then my son, Ryan, looks at me and goes, "Mom, you can't just build one. You've lived 30 years. You need to build 30. That is so many more than one. But somehow he talked me into this. And so we launched the 30/30 Project with an Indiegogo campaign, a compelling video, and the goal to raise enough money to build 30 healthcare facilities in areas around the world that lacked healthcare access. Now, I need to tell you, the first couple weeks, we got a ton of attention. We were on national talk shows, we were in People magazine, like we funded 3 healthcare clinics in the first few weeks. And then everyone that was helping went back to their day jobs, Ryan went back to making music, and suddenly it was just me with this humongous goal. I would wake up at night sweating and thinking to myself, what in the world did I just tell all of America I'm gonna do? You know, I had never in my life set a goal that had so much chance of failure. Well, I have this thing where I say to myself when I'm overwhelmed, just start where you are with what you already have and then take the next step and then the next. Well, what I had at that point was my story, 10 years of speaking experience, and this compelling video. So that first year, I just went to anyone and everyone that would have me with this idea that healthcare spaces could create healthcare access. Well, as the project progressed and got, a little more popular and we were doing okay, I knew I couldn't do it by myself, so we hired a small team of women and we hired Teresa Hillis to be our director. But that first, couple years, it was still slow and we weren't reaching our goals. So one day, I asked Teresa this question. I said, would people think bad of us? Would people think bad of us if we only built 15 healthcare facilities? I mean, would 15 healthcare facilities be a failure? It's a sad day when you're asking, would building 15 buildings be a failure? But this was a real question. Well, I'm happy to tell you that we did end up reaching our goal of funding all 30 healthcare facilities. And despite a couple COVID delays, the last 2 of our buildings are being built right now, a clinic in India and one in Kenya, and should be done by early next year. So, what did I learn through all of this? Well, the first thing I learned is being bold is freaking scary. It is. Being bold requires us to let go of our fears and risk failure. But being bold also requires a ton of problem solving. And sometimes you have to ask for help. But despite what being bold requires, what it enables is for us to live out our dreams and convictions. Being bold is how we start to change what's unjust. It's how we demand representation and how we advocate for a more equitable world. So tonight, I want to encourage all of you to think big. I mean, at least think bigger. You know, don't underestimate yourself. I did that for far too long. You are not too young or too old. I mean, you're not too old. I have 6 grandkids. You are not too old or too young to start that big idea you have. Just start where you are with what you have and take the next step, and then the next. And sometimes our big ideas need to be times by 30. And perhaps we'll only get to 15. But here's the thing. 15 is not a failure. 15 is not a failure because it is so many more than 1. You know, I want to close tonight by telling you about my latest bold move. If you don't have your phone out, you can get it out now. Scan that QR code because I just wrote my memoir, and all of it launches next Tuesday, and all of the proceeds, the net proceeds from my book that I wrote with Jenny Koenig, go to continue this idea of healthcare access and equity, especially for women. So we are going to be donating our proceeds to organizations that work towards that. So thank you for coming, and go out and be bold and change the world. Thanks.
Okay. Wow, talking about bold moves, plural, that's incredible. So when I heard Julie's story, I thought to myself, it's kind of like the ceiling can't hold us. I did it. And so for those who don't know, I didn't know, but the Ryan, so Julie's son, Ryan, that she was talking about is Ryan Lewis. And so that song that I just stole the line from, yes, they had this incredible song who won 4 Grammys, and it's called Can't Hold Us. And it's from the band Ryan Macklemore and Ryan Lewis. So, bold family, woo! And it's pretty incredible to see the work that she's doing with her son, actually. So it makes me think of my kids and what they're gonna do. And speaking of kids, I have 2, and my youngest one, my daughter, she's turning 14 tomorrow. Better go back home for that. But 14, I learned, was actually also the average age when a young person enters sex trafficking. I didn't know that, and that came as a shock. 14 is so young. And for some of us, it might feel kind of abstract, you know, it doesn't really happen to us, but it does. It happens to a lot of people across the planet, people we cross paths in the streets, in train station, in airport. And it happens to Rebecca, who's going to join us on stage in a second, and she'll tell us her story. And so it's really difficult once you enter sex trafficking to get out of it. And so she's going to be joined with Mar as well. And Mar is the CEO and executive director of Business Ending Slavery and Trafficking, BEST for short. It's a nonprofit organization that's been working for 10 years. Education program, awareness, workshop, also finding safe job for sex trafficking survivor. So it's my pleasure to welcome on stage Rebecca and Mar Brettman. Hi, Rebecca. Welcome to Be Bold. Welcome to Be Bold.
In 2005, I was hit by a car and I was left unable to walk. And this was the best thing that ever happened to me. This is surprising, but I was trafficked over state lines over the course of 2 years. Not being able to get out. You know, I tried so many times. Many times it takes someone over 7 times to get out of a situation like that. I remember looking down at my foot, and I was sitting in the emergency room, and I realized in that moment that because my foot was broken, I would not be of use to my trafficker anymore. I couldn't make him money. He couldn't exploit me. And this would actually be, you know, my step to, living a free and fulfilling life. And so I was able to get out of that situation, and I would say within 3 weeks, I headed back to Washington State, and I found myself on house arrest for 3.5 months because I wouldn't tell on my trafficker. Back then, many times the police would look at the victims, as the perpetrator and didn't really know how to respond to a situation like that. And so I did that time, kind of moved forward with my life. I felt so much shame and guilt, living through that situation. And I knew there was something more that I wanted to do with my life. Even though that had happened to me, I really wanted to find my voice. So I went back to school. I got into the University of Washington. I studied, thank you. I studied business and also added a communication major onto that because I knew that I had something to say. I didn't know exactly what that was, but I knew that I needed to go and kind of pursue and walk that journey. And Mar, I know you have also had some challenges finding your voice.
Yeah, Rebecca. I was raised in a small town in South Carolina to a deeply, deeply religious family. So when I was in my 20s, I decided to go on and study religion, and I had the opportunity to earn a PhD at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland in the area of theology and human rights. Then I got the opportunity to teach graduate and undergraduate students, and I was the only young single female in my department in place after place. And almost all of my colleagues were always older white men. So in my 30s, I had what I refer to as a feminist awakening. I started to realize and see all of the patriarchy all around me and the ways that I was actively being silenced and the ways that I was silencing myself and my own voice. So with external sexism, it's really hard, right, when others are silencing you. But what I found the most corrosive was internalized sexism. It was my own self-silencing. So I realized that I needed to leave my career. I realized that in order to find my voice, in order to find myself, I actually needed to be in a different environment. So I made a bold move. I moved to Seattle. I turned down a tenure-track position, and I started trying to figure out what was next for me. So bold moves are really terrifying, and that one was a hugely terrifying move. And Rebecca, you also made a bold move when you left your trafficker. So what happened as a result of making that move?
I did, and it took over a decade, almost 2 decades, to even realize what had happened to me. If someone would have asked me, are you a trafficking victim? I would have no idea how to answer that. I wouldn't have known what that terminology was, at that age. And so, human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to make an individual work in any industry. And for me, that was sexual exploitation. And so I remember when I was in college, I was nearing my senior year, and I needed an internship. But the reality was that I had an extensive criminal record from being arrested so many times, for not telling on the trafficker. And so I reached out to a friend because, I had all these big goals and dreams of all the things I wanted to do after I finally got my degree. And it was very clear to me that I wouldn't be able to attain any of those things because of that criminal record. And so one of my friends connected me with the CSEC task force, this acronym, the Commercial Sexual Exploitation of Children Task Force for the Superior Court. And I was able to attain a 9-month internship, and that just completely changed my life. I was able to learn about what happened to me, learn about what trauma is, how this happens. I wasn't just a kid who did something bad. I was coerced and I was manipulated into that life. So that experience was life-changing for me. I realized the impact of the voice that, survivors have. It's unique and it's important as we move forward with any anti-trafficking efforts in our community. During that time, I was connected with Legal Hope, which is a nonprofit based in Washington State. And they connected me with a pro bono attorney. And he had me sit down and write my story. And just doing that, I had to kind of relive and re-experience what had happened to me. But, just seeing that reality was so healing for me as well, to really, truly understand that. And I sat in front of a judge when I was going in for vacatur, and she said to me, Rebecca, like, everything that you've done, in your career so far and in the community working towards efforts toward this, I'm so sorry this happened to you. I'm proud of what you're doing. I'm going to grant you vacatur, but also seal your record. And so that's something that was very rare. I became the first person in Washington State to vacate their criminal record completely under... Under the newly amended human trafficking statute that was enacted because of all of the work in the community that survivors and allies have put forth over the years. Mar, what happened for you after your bold move to leave your career in education?
So I spent a year here in Seattle writing and publishing my first book called Theories of Justice. And that book was a feminist critique of two of the most influential modern male theologians. And so I was terrified of publishing, of using my voice in this way, because I knew that in doing so, I would be perceived to be betraying or just disappointing my teachers, my mentors, my family, and my whole community at that time. But I knew I needed to make my voice heard, and I knew I needed to speak. So I went ahead and I published. And I learned that sometimes being bold means disappointing the people around us. So while writing, I also started volunteering at several anti-trafficking organizations, and I learned more about trafficking, learned that it was one of the worst human rights abuses of our day happening right here in Washington State. I got to meet men and women like Rebecca, survivors who had been through trafficking and who were working towards their recovery and being able to give back to the community. And I learned that an estimated 500 youth are being trafficked in the sex trade at any time here in King County. And over 1,200 adults have sought services, have been seeking services annually for sex trafficking, for the experiences they've had as sex trafficking victims in our state alone. So the issue is largely misunderstood. The voices of trafficking victims are often silenced, and silenced by stigma, silenced by criminalization, just like what happened with you, Rebecca. So in 2011, I had the opportunity to start BEST, Businesses Ending Slavery and Trafficking. And BEST is a nonprofit organization. Our work is towards prevention. That's our mission, is to prevent trafficking from happening. And to do that, we educate employers and employees who are on the front lines of trafficking. So those in the hotel industry, rideshare, airports, all the folks that would see trafficking before law enforcement would see it and would be able to potentially assist victims to get out of those situations or to prevent it from happening in the first place. The other thing that we do at BEST is we help survivors to get employment after they've been in situations of trafficking. So I personally have found deep, deep healing and joy as a result of doing this work, because I've been able to create spaces where survivor voices have been able to be heard. And given my own difficulty finding my own voice, that has been incredibly rewarding to be part of the lives of women like Rebecca and these amazing, amazing survivors in our community. What we do at BEST is that we create this online training, and we center that online training around survivor voices. That's what we hear over and over and over, is it's the survivor stories that really stick with people, that create empathy, and that create that social change. So it's the survivor voices that are creating change so that other victims are being identified and assisted to get out of the situation that they're in. And several years ago, we hired you, Rebecca, and you were amazing as a full-time employee and now as a consultant for BEST. And over the past decade, our team, and with your help, we've educated over 175,000 people. Yeah. And then recently, we, Rebecca and I and a group of survivors started a new initiative to involve policymakers and to influence public policy here in Washington State called Ways Forward, Washington Against Sexual Exploitation. And we have been working to enact and create and enact laws that are going to support survivors and victims throughout the state. And so by boldly using our voices, Rebecca, we have been able to change the landscape for survivors. We've been able to change the landscape for employers. And now we have been able to venture into public policy and changing that landscape as well.
Absolutely. It has been an incredible journey with you, Mar. Recently in this legislative session, our Ways Forward team made up of a group of survivors and allies. We've had the ability to meet with legislators across Washington State to speak with them, tell them our stories, the needs of survivors with strength and vulnerability. And we had the opportunity to meet with Tina Orwell and Claire Wilson and start working on Senate Bill 5114. Yes, got to get that right. And it actually passed, so you can look that up, and was signed. Yes, it was signed by Governor Inslee with our team standing behind him, and we were able to secure $2.75 million for survivor services for 2 years. And this is what being bold looks like, being able to stand up and say, even if, something horrible happened to me in my past, you can overcome that. You can move forward. Even if you don't know what that is, when I started walking, I didn't know exactly where I was going. And so just keep putting one foot in front of the next. If you ever feel like your voice has been silenced, just know that you can reclaim your voice, because we did, and so can you.
Wow, thank you so much, Mar and Brett, for opening like this. It's quite incredible. And, I think that what comes out of their stories is that it's not easy to always find your voice. But when you have this itch, when you really are passionate about something, you find a way to find that voice. And speaking of finding a voice, someone else came up from Los Angeles to Seattle. I think we're chasing the good weather that you guys are having at the moment. And so for those who have attended previous Be Bold events, Scarlet Parke, that name might sound familiar with you. She's not only a wonderful artist, she's also using her voice and her platform for women empowerment and mental health awareness. And I'm so delighted to have her here tonight. Scarlet, welcome to Be Bold. All right, it's good to be back, is it?
It is.
Yes?
It is, yes.
All right, so we're going to have a little fireside chat sans fire with flowers. Tell us a little bit about those foundational experiences that really shaped who you are.
Yes, I would say that in the past couple years, and this might resonate with a couple people in here, COVID really made me ask myself, are you who you want to be? Are you doing what you want with your life? And if the world ended, are you satisfied with it ending now? And that was a hard question to answer for me. I found myself in a relationship with a man who was great, but with a life where I had stifled myself a lot. And I had been chasing becoming somebody else's dream girl, which I think a lot of women do specifically. I have a song that I'll sing a little bit later that kind of tells the story of that. That was the initial launching point of my journey of discovering what it means as a woman to be my own dream girl, not fulfilling somebody's fantasies or fulfilling somebody else's needs. And I'm just grateful to be where I am today, because I feel like I made the hard choice to leave the relationship that wasn't necessarily bad for me, but it was not, in the end, what I knew I was put on this earth to do. And so I didn't even really know what that was. I knew that I wanted to be a musician, but I always felt that it was a deeper there was something deeper there. I hadn't discovered the answer yet, but I knew that if I signed up for this life with this man who would want something that I knew was different from what I wanted, unfortunately, that I would be settling in a way for me. And so I made the hard choice to walk away at the beginning of COVID and kind of launch myself into this whirlwind of self-discovery and hard questions, and betting on myself that I would be able to discover what it is that was calling me. But I really had no idea what that was. And I spent the last 3 years kind of diving into what it means to be my own dream girl.
Important work, and sometimes it lasts forever. What's your experience? Like, you're a musician, and so that, as a profession, it's often a very male-dominated industry. So tell us a little bit of how you navigate this world.
Yes. So I've been a musician for about 10 years now. I mean, I was kind of born with it. I think a lot of creatives know very early on if they're going to be interested in that. And it was always in my blood. Every day I was singing, every day I was interested in music. And so I've been pursuing that for about 10 years and learned very quickly that I was supposed to just be pretty and sing. Sing what they wanted me to sing about, talk about what I'm supposed to talk about, and be just whatever somebody wanted me to be. And if you want to get a record deal, you have to sign 50. We've all thankfully that I think more and more are understanding kind of that those are traps, right? The music industry is very unfair to their artists with record labels. So I chose to stay independent, which I knew I was signing up for a little bit of a longer path because I would have to fight tooth and nail for what I wanted and what I believed in. But as I said previously, like, I felt like there was something deeper than me just being an artist. And I felt like me staying independent and choosing to be bold and have the audacity to stand up for what I believed in, which was I want to make music because it feels good. And I'm willing to sacrifice right now fame for long-term fulfillment. Because my art is something that heals me. I think that it has a story in the end. I think that it's something that will speak to people on a deep level, and I'm not willing to subscribe to the agenda that you're pushing. So I ended up in a lot of studios, and I moved to LA. I did the whole thing after my ex and I broke up. We were engaged, my ex-fiance. And I moved to LA, and I said, all right, let's do it. If there's purpose here, let me find it. And the universe delivered, But, be careful what you ask for, because if you ask for a lesson, you will get it. And lessons are lessons are rarely painless. And the more painful they are, the more important they are. And I encourage you, anybody in the audience who might be going through some trials, some tests of their own will, some tests of their own faith in themselves, some tests of their faith in the universe, in God, and whatever you believe in, whatever's beyond yourself, that you are being put through what you're being put through because there's something better on the other side. And I also encourage everybody in this room to not be so focused on what you think you want and miss the gold just in your peripheral. That's something I did for a long time, where I chased one thing so hard that I was unwilling to see what was just outside of it. And for me, that was music production. I really have dove into that in the last couple years, which again was against the grain. It's not normal, it's abnormal, it raised a lot of eyebrows. People don't think it's appropriate, I think, for a lot of women to produce music. It's a very, very male-dominated space. It's 98% men who produce music, 2% female. And those statistics are changing every day because there are a lot of women empowerment movements. My company, Dream Girl, is very proud to be one of them. I created the Dream Girl producer bag along this journey that I've been on, and decided that I wanted to make music production more accessible for girls. Not even music production, but vocal production. Being able to feel like you can produce what it is that you're hearing in your head, because vocals and singing is one of the most therapeutic and physically healing things that you can do as a human. And I think a lot of people, and through my experience and my conversations with women, and honestly TikTok is where this all blew up.
We knew it.
TikTok, can we get a hell yeah for TikTok? All right. But I posted about the Dream Girl bag, a cheeky video, just kind of throwing it out there, because a lot of guys, when I said I wanted to start the Dream Girl producer bag, they were like, well, why would you market and why would you create a bag if only 2% of producers are women?
Wow.
And I'm like, well, don't you think that only 2% of them are producers because you're out here talking like that and making them feel stupid? Like, it's not a lack of want, it's a lack of accessibility. It's a lack of support. It's a lack of community. And, one of my strengths has always been to connect people. It's one of my biggest passions in life. I love people tell me what they do, and I'm like, all right, I hold on to that, and then I find out you're like, this is what you're looking for? Great. You probably hear from me in 6 months. I'm gonna be like, hey, I remember that I told you that thing, and now I've connected. That's one of my passions in life. So I posted something on TikTok that said the days of men holding women in locked rooms to force them, or so that they can't learn how to produce their own music and forcing them to pay to feel belittled are over, because I'm creating a portable studio bag so that girls can create where they feel safe. And it just went viral. And the response was overwhelming, and also such an indicator of a serious problem in the industry, that there are not enough spaces for female artists to feel safe enough to speak up about how their own music is being made. Like, I have put out, I'm not here to belittle or talk crap about anything, but I have worked with some producers where it's like, I wrote the song. I was always a producer at heart, and so I wrote the song, I came to the studio with a vision and was told, that's stupid. That's not cool right now. Nobody's gonna listen to that. You should let me do it because I know what I'm doing. Oh yeah, and pay me a bunch of money for me to belittle you and make you feel like your idea is stupid. And then also stunting, after every studio session, in reinforcing the feeling that I'm not good enough to produce my own music that I'm hearing in my head. So,
yeah. So you made a bold move, and you're making music production accessible to women and girls. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And I think you've been busy writing new music as well in the past couple of years. So tell us about your latest song.
Thank you. Yes, I actually have realized that I've never written a song about the joy and pain of being a woman. So when I was asked to come back to Be Bold this year, I told Nikki that I would write a song about being a woman. And so I have written a completely new song that I'll be performing tonight. And I do have a song called Dream Girl that I think I'll perform it sometime tonight as well, too.
Shall we hear it?
Yes.
Yes?
Let's do it.
All right. Round of applause. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You tell me I'm pretty, just to watch me get upset. You're the most romantic thing I've ever met. a Polaroid. We developed feelings in a single night. You told me you love me, can't get enough of me. I told me you're kind of and you're bluffing. Ooh, I've been fighting my own demons, but you're giving me something to believe in. I'm a drinking potion boy, sinking to this love-filled ocean boy. Ooh, do you think I'm lonely? Oh, did you mean? Did you really mean it when you said I was yours? Did you mean it?
Thank you. Just want to say a couple more things. So that song is what prompted my Dream Girl journey. It was written from a place of love, and it was recorded after the breakup, where I was forced to look at the lyrics and realize that so much of my life was asking people for validation. Did you really mean it when you said I was your dream girl? And that was a hard place for me to be. And I just encourage everybody to learn how to validate yourself, because your thoughts and your wants and your dreams and your aspirations and the gut feeling that you have is most likely correct in the path that you're supposed to be on. And if you're feeling anxiety of any kind, it means that you're far from the path that you were put here for. So I just want to encourage you to really look deeply and trust yourself and love yourself. Thank you, guys.
How amazing was that? Isn't she wonderful? So as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have a special interview right now with the Be Bold Girls student team. And just to remind you, we set this up less than a year ago, and they developed a program called Transform the Norm, and it's about shattering the old, outdated, and harmful gender stereotypes that hold girls back. So first of all, I'm going to ask these ladies to introduce themselves. So, Angelina.
Hello, everyone. My name is Angelina. I'm in 11th grade at Bellevue High School, and I'm 16 years old.
This is scary. My name is Shivani Sinha. I'm 16 years old. I'm an 11th grader, and I go to Interlake High School.
And my name is Dora Andrew. I'm 14 years old, and I'm in 8th grade, and I go to St. Thomas School.
So I've got a question for each one of our ladies here tonight. So Angelina, I know you're extremely busy academically and also with sport. So what made you invest some of your precious time, your precious free time, in starting Be Bold Girls? And also tell us a little bit about Transform the Norm.
Yeah, of course. So there are definitely a lot of reasons why I wanted to join Be Bold Girls, and I think the three main ones. And like the first one was that I felt that Be Bold Girls, it was really able to teach me skills I wouldn't be able to learn at school, such as like presentation skills, design thinking, how to use social media to brand myself, etc., etc. These skills are applicable to any career, which is especially important to me because I'm not exactly sure which career I want to pursue in the future. And secondly, I've also received so much guidance from our adult leads and all the expert professionals that we've interacted with, as well as amazing opportunities like this one to be able to use these skills. And lastly, and I think the most important reason, is that through this program, I was really able to see how a regular high schooler, just like me, is able to create a tangible impact in the lives of those around us. Before this program, I would have never thought that it was possible, but now I've really seen the potential that each one of us have, no matter how small we may seem in the grand scheme of things, to actually create an impact in the world. Yeah. And for the Transform the Norm program, that is the program that we, as in the other projects teams, we designed for girls by girls. And this is a 3-part program that we hope to enable girls to design the change that they want to see in the world. And the first part is our speaker series, where we invite speakers to come over and share their stories and experiences, as well as teach the valuable life skills that I mentioned earlier. And from these workshops, we also want to use our student ambassador community to expand our reach so we can also have more conversations in other schools and communities. And from these discussions, that brings us to our next part, which is the Changemaker Challenge. Here, girls are able to apply the skills that they learned in the previous 2 parts to create an innovative proposal targeted at a specific challenge that themselves or other girls are facing. And they'll be able to receive coaching and feedback to refine their proposals and finally present them this Saturday at our pitch day. Yeah.
Thank you, Angelina. So Shivani, I have a question for you. What have you found most valuable about being in this program? Maybe if you could share some examples with the audience about what you've learned.
I mean, I've learned a lot of valuable skills through this program. Angelina talked a little bit about the speaker series. One of the events that we had recently was when CEO Elena Hansen of Swim Social, it's the social media company that's pretty impressive. She came in and she talked to us, and not only did she tell us how to form our own identity on social media and just how to portray ourselves, she taught us about how social media, everybody's heard about the negatives. Everybody knows it can be very toxic. It can be very harmful to some people. But she also taught us that social media can be a good way to impact the world. It can be a good way to spread your message. It can be a good way to share information. And so we were able to learn a lot of positives through this event as well. So I've gotten to learn from a lot of really important and interesting people. But I've also been able to work with the project team. I've been able to work with Angelina and Dora, and we've been able to do a lot of valuable things like that. We've helped coordinate the speaker series. We've helped, you probably saw us selling raffle tickets earlier. We've done a lot of things that I would not have been able to do without the B-Bowl Girls program. I definitely would not have had a chance to do this anywhere else in high school. This is truly one of the most unique experiences I've had in my life. And I mean, I'm gonna go to college in 2 years. That's kind of scary. But more importantly, I think what I've learned from the Bowl Girls program will just come with me. And so even once I've graduated, even when I'm probably off in, I don't know, California or something. I don't know. Even when I'm off somewhere, I'll definitely take what I've learned from this program and I'll come back because I've learned so much here and I've been able to engage with so many people, and that's just something I've had a great time doing. Yeah.
Thank you, Shivani. Okay, Dora, over to you. Can you share with us what you are most proud of being involved in the B-Bowl Girls program?
Yeah, definitely. So I have the amazing opportunity to manage our Instagram marketing program, publishing and creating posts every week to show off our workshops and promote attendance. I've been able to give feedback to other girls to help them make sure our information is most valuable. I also included this in my high school application and was not only accepted, but also was awarded with a scholarship for the great work.
I am feeling really emotional, don't I? I'm finding it hard to speak. So I just want to, these ladies are amazing. Right? They really demonstrated. Now, I'm a mum of 2 boys, right? So after they came to our event last year, they said, we'd love to do something. We'd love a program for us. And I was like, okay. So we sat down and we listened to them, and they told us they shared with us their stress and anxiety and the things that they don't like that happen to them either online or through conversations at school, through their peers and communities. And I was like, we got to do something. We got to help these ladies become change makers now so that they can design, develop, and deliver the change they want to see now. Not after college, not once they get involved in their career, not after they've become a mum, not after they're an empty nester, but now. And so this is what our work is all about. We're looking to expand this program, extend it to more girls. This year we've reached 150 girls locally. But we were also invited to partner with Microsoft. They have a fantastic program called DigiGirls, and we took Transform the Norm to their program, and it was virtual. And the reach was 330 girls in places like Africa, Canada, and the Middle East, over 15 countries. So my goal is to find the funding to expand this program, because you can see, right, how much impact it can have. So that's why we were selling raffle tickets tonight. So I hope you all bought one. So first, let's give a round of applause to these ladies. So I'm going to ask each of the girls to pick out 2 tickets. Okay, Angelina. Okay, are you ready?
Okay, so the first lucky number we have is 335111. And I'll repeat that again, 335111. Congratulations. And the second lucky number is 335416. That's 335416. Congrats.
I have got, everybody ready? We're good? All right. 335025. Okay. And 335350. 335350. We'll find somebody later.
Okay. And our final 2 numbers are 335337. That's 335337. And our last number is 335413.
So anyone who's a winner, we've got another 5 tickets to draw at the end of the show. Please collect your prize on your way out from the Be Bold Girls table, and you'll learn what you've won then. So enjoy.
Amazing. All right, how is everyone feeling? Good? Okay. So I am so delighted to introduce our next speaker because she's a rebel. And she decided to rebel against what her family was expecting of her to be, and she just threw herself in the art world. She moved to London, she studied the art, and she landed in the museum and art world. And I know from personal experience, it's not always easy to tell your parents that you're gonna be this creative person. She also chooses to center Black stories in predominantly white spaces. She really believes in the power of creativity to make changes. Ashanti Davis is Operations Director at the Northwest African American Museum in Seattle, and she's here tonight with us. Ashanti.
Woo. Talk about bold moves. So I broke my toe a few weeks ago and just had surgery last Thursday. But I'm excited to be here with all of you. This is great. So one of the things that you can do to make bold moves is to find your sphere of influence. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I found mine. That's me. I know. I think I'm 3 years old in that photo. And I was really lucky to have parents who told me that I could do and be anything. And they knew that I needed a strong foundation as a little Black girl in a very white world. And they wanted me to have the tools, the knowledge, the foundation to just go out and do and be me. And I did. And it was really great. And so what I really love about my parents is that when I told them I wanted to be a veterinarian, they were like, yes, do it. I loved animals. I want to be a veterinarian. I didn't decide to be a veterinarian. And then I thought, maybe I'll be an astronaut. Thank you, Mae Jameson, so much for that. And I still want to be an astronaut. I will still go to space if they'll let me. But maybe I'll be an aerospace engineer. My father was an air traffic controller, and I spent my entire life around airplanes. But I didn't choose any of those things. Instead, I actually chose art and museums. I know. Where did I go? But this museum is actually incredibly important to me. This museum is the Art Institute in Chicago, and if you've not had an opportunity to go, I definitely think you should go. My father died when I was 13, and that changes the course of your life. I went into high school without a parent, and now just kind of trying to figure out, who am I? And at the time, I wasn't really trying to figure out who I was. I just wanted to just be. And it was actually going to this museum. We actually went to Chicago. My brother went to boot camp and graduated. We went, and we got to go to this museum. And it was at this museum that I began to see myself again. And so I thank this museum and Jackson Pollock for really kind of starting to bring me back into myself. And I really thank this museum for what I will say is a very bold move at the age of 18, which was leaving home and traveling overseas to go to Richmond, the American International University in London, where I spent 4 years studying. And it really does look like that. It does. That's not fake, I promise. It does actually look like that. And it was here where I told my family, like, I'm gonna study international business. No, I didn't do any of that. I remember a macroeconomics professor who was like, or he was actually my advisor, and he was like, you should take my macroeconomics class. And I was like, I should change my major. And I did. I changed my major to art. I had taken an art class, and I was like, you know what? This is for me. And so I chose to study art, which was a bold move. It absolutely was, and it is one that I am so thankful for, because it was in studying art and in finding and channeling my creativity, something that I knew I always had, that I found myself again. I found who I was. I processed this trauma, this loss of a parent, and I became really who I am today, and I've continued to blossom, but I really started this kind of, this journey into where I am right now. But museums are really interesting spaces. So I started my museum journey at the Fleet Science Center in San Diego. And there I actually started in our makerspace. And makerspaces are often confused as arts and crafts rooms. But in this makerspace, we taught everything from how to solder to how to correctly use hammers to origami and playing with construction paper. And oftentimes I'd hear from adults that they weren't creative, that they didn't know how to creative. And believe me, I've met so many adults who don't know how to use a hot glue gun. It was amazing. But in this space, I created a safe space for adults to explore and play with other adults. Yes, it does burn. For children to explore and play with their parents in the same space. And for children to just be children, to be creative, and this is so important. And this is one of the areas of my sphere of influence. But it wasn't enough. My sphere continued to grow in this museum. Next, I moved into the exhibition space, developing exhibitions for the general public, taking topics in science, technology, engineering, and math, and fusing them with art and my artistic ability and talent, and really creating spaces that turned what I would like to call boring science subjects sometimes into really exciting experiences. I'd have to tell you a story about topology, but that is for another day. And this is a mathematics study. It's a long rabbit hole. But this sphere of influence also wasn't enough. I was able to change the face of what these spaces look like, draw in new stories, but it wasn't enough. Because at the end of the day, I was still one of the few in a sea of white faces in my field. Not just in a science center, but really in museums. And so I really moved into this space. My sphere grew because I knew that museums needed to change. And so my sphere grew into the space of inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility, and thinking about organizational change. Because museums are incredibly white spaces. And they are spaces with a history of colonization, with a history of taking what does not belong to them, hoarding it, telling stories that don't then belong to them, or telling them through their own lens, and this needed to change. And also museums inside needed to change because there weren't enough people who looked like me working in these spaces, making critical decisions. And so my next bold move would be one that was both very expensive, but also what I like to call a protest. Because I knew if I needed to make change in these spaces, I also needed to have those little letters that sometimes you have behind your names, or those pieces of paper that you pay lots of money for, because that is what the people in my field regard as important, as valuable. So my greatest protest was getting a master's in museum studies and certificate in nonprofit management from Johns Hopkins University. And I graduated in 2021, winter 2021. That's right, grad school during a pandemic and working full time. That was weird. But it was worth it. It was worth it because now I had a new tool that was going to allow me to make bold moves and to really expand this sphere of influence and push the boundaries of what I could do. And I did. And I did for as long as I could, really diving into organizational change, working with my CEO, having conversations about how we needed to change inside before we could really change outside. Because if there weren't people of color, if there weren't women in decision-making positions, then what were we really doing all of this for? But then I couldn't do it anymore. Because being the only, and always the only, carries a burden with it. Whether the only woman in a space, in a male-dominated space, or the only black woman in a sea of white faces, it was hard. I had to shoulder a lot. And so I made a decision, and another very bold move. I left my museum after almost 9 years, and I moved here to Seattle, literally in January. Yeah, absolutely. And I chose at that moment, the reason I made that move and actually turned down other jobs as well is because I wanted to center Black people. I wanted to center Black stories. I wanted to share our art, our culture, our history. And I wanted to do that with other Black people. And so here at my museum, we have one white colleague at the moment, right? But we're excited to work together to create an educational space that's for everyone. It's not just for Black people, it's for everyone. And to share the stories of this region, not just Washington, but Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, Alaska, the Pacific Northwest. And it's an incredible opportunity to be bold and make bold moves in even a very small space. You have to come visit my museum. We're right there in Central District in the Coleman School. But those are my bold moves. That's what I chose to do. And that's my museum if you want to come visit anytime. So what can you do? So this is an incredible graphic by Deepa Iyer, and it's about a social change ecosystem. And we all know what ecosystems are. They are made up of many different things: air, trees, water, people, cars. Let's not talk about that. But all of these different pieces that make up an ecosystem. But as we talk about social change, we talk about all of these different things that are required to really create change. So when you think about the protests, right? There's the people who are in the front, but there are also the people who are in the back. There's someone who's got to go on a water run. There's someone who's got to get snacks. There's someone who's making sure that people get rest, that people get to where they need to go. So there are so many spaces that you can occupy inside of a social change ecosystem. So for you to be bold and for you to really make bold moves, find your sphere of influence, but find it within you. Look into yourself and see where you are. See the spaces that you occupy. And then once you do that, ask yourself, what can you do to create change just within that space? Because you don't need to be Oprah Winfrey. She has a lot of money, she has a lot of clout, and she is able to do a lot. You don't have to be a Malala. She was shot on a school bus going to learn. And she came back advocating for peace, for education, for women. And not all of us can be her. Don't be Greta. She is doing amazing things, advocating for this climate. She is young, but we all can't be her. Some of us are teachers. Some of us work in museums. Some of us are students. Some of us are still just trying to figure it out. Some of us are still just making the days go by and wondering, should I even do anything? Is it worth it? So all you have to do is think inside that space and just be you. That's it. So all I ask of you today is just to find your sphere of influence and then just go and make bold moves. That's it. Just do that. Just be you. And thank you all for being here with me today.
Just doing this on stage is a bold move. Come on. Thank you, Ashanti. I love what she says around the sphere of influence and how we make tiny little moves one day at a time. All right, our last speaker. Let's move from the art world to the fashion world. Yes. So I think we can all say that COVID changed the way we dressed, right? We traded stiletto for Crocs, Birkenstock, whatever is just comfortable. Stiletto will never come back into my life. And sweatpants took over, right? We definitely don't dress the same way. So there's that. Then there's also some stats as a female business owners that I need to read to you because they're pretty daunting. So I learned that women own 43% of small business in the US. That's pretty good. Woo, yes. However, women founders get less than 2% of venture capital funding. So, exactly. So the math isn't mathing. This is an enormous challenge that we need to overcome. And fashion is also a predominantly male-dominated industry, And so for our next speaker, who created a business in fashion right before COVID, she's going to share a couple of things of how to deal with resilience and grit and the challenges of unforeseeable, circumstances like COVID. So it is my pleasure to welcome on stage Amibika Singh. She's the CEO and founder of Armoire, a personalized clothing rental membership giving you access to thousands of high-end styles for a monthly fee. Everything that can make my life easier, I'll take it. So Amibika, welcome on stage.
That's great. I really appreciate it. Thank you. That was a very kind introduction. My name is Amibika Singh, and I am the chief boss lady of Armoire. I started Armoire in 2016 when I was a graduate student at MIT. I interviewed over 500 women. I spent time with them in their homes. I asked them about their challenges, their life stories, their opportunities, the things that bothered them, the things that made them feel confident. And after all of this chatting, I felt very confident that I wanted to focus on their closets. Their closets? Their closets might seem like a strange place to start, but I'll tell you why. The closet seemed to attract undue amounts of energy from these incredible women. They had spent hours curating the closets. There were stories of the items in there, where they had been purchased, the deals they had scored. There were stories of the money that they had spent. But amazingly, when I asked them how they felt about their closets, the most repeated word was the word guilty. They felt guilty about the time spent, guilty about the money spent, guilty that the clothes didn't fit them anymore or they didn't like them. This armor that was supposed to be keeping us safe and strong and warm was actually making us unhappy. Enter Armoire. Armoire is the dream closet, and our mission is to armor the ambitious woman so that she can be who she needs to be. How do we do this? So we employ a couple important things. One, the closet is shared. This green blazer that I'm wearing, loving it tonight, it's gonna be somebody else's by tomorrow. It's giving me tremendous joy. I'm really excited about it, and it fits me great. It may not fit me by next week. I have a little baby coming along, so I'm changing sizes fast. But somebody else is gonna love it, and I'm so thrilled to be able to pass it along. We're gonna curate that closet so that for someone like me who's changing a bunch of sizes, or maybe somebody like you who's changing careers or even temperatures, we're gonna curate that closet with love, like your best friend would, offering things that are in your safe space, but also things that we say to you, you should just try this, you know, you might really like it. Hopefully I've enticed you enough, taking a page from Julie to put up the QR code. Hopefully I've enticed you enough to take a look. If you flash this or come find me afterwards, I can tell you a little bit more and give you a good code. Today, Armoire is a multi-million-dollar business. Thank you. We employ over 70 people in Seattle, and we ship to every state in the union with thousands of customers across every different little state and city in our great country. I am living my dream, for sure. I wake up every day and I'm still like, how did I get here? Well, I'll tell you, the first trick is that I started here. I had to throw this up because almost 20 years ago to the day, I graduated from high school on this very stage. And I gave a very different speech about where I was going. But the reason that I shared that is because I started in this seat, just like many of the young women that we heard from tonight, and I had a dream, I still have a dream, that I'm chasing. But the interesting thing is, I never took a scary leap. I didn't dive off any cliff, and I didn't turn around 180 degrees and throw my life away. Those visualizations have never worked for me. Because if I believed that chasing my dreams required me to throw my life away or jump off a cliff or start over, I would have been way too terrified to do it. Instead, I took steps. And I'll continue to take steps. And the steps are something that I can accomplish today. And tomorrow's step will be a little bit different. but they're incremental steps on top of this very stage that I started on 20 years ago. So today, what I hope to give you is a little bit of advice about how to chase your dreams without ever diving off a cliff. So 3 things that we'll talk about today: inertia, micro risks, and chasing balance instead of epic. What is inertia? So I bet the young women in the room can give us the proper definition, but in case it's been a long time since you were in a physics class, an object in motion will remain either at rest or in motion unless it gets arrested by an external force. We are also subject to inertia. But the way I would interpret this in this context is a little bit different than the way we talk about it in physics class. We all have routines, we have lives, we have families, we have friends. And to arrest that routine and do something different, for me, required external forces. It's a lot to ask, to say, yes, you have a dream, and yes, you are the only one accountable to achieving it, so hopefully you can figure that out. We've heard from a bunch of the other speakers that asking for help is important. This was my way of asking for help. I needed to figure out a way to arrest my progress and make sure that I took myself off of the track that I was on so that I could put myself on a different path. So for me, what that meant was that I had this idea, I wanted to chase it, so I changed the way my daily routine looked, and I was very lucky to get into MIT's accelerator that required me to show up every Tuesday and report on my progress. Just that sort of accountability step was I can't even sort of like measure how important that was in my progress. I found not 1, but 4 co-founders, people who I still am deeply indebted to and also felt a lot of accountability to. So I showed up every time we met having taken a few steps that maybe if it had just been me, I would have excused away or told myself I was okay with not having. So for me, figuring out how to find external forces to help me get on my path to achieve my dreams and arrest the inertia that I already had was very important. The second concept I want to talk to you about today is about micro risks. So the Harvard Business Review reports that men are much more likely than women to take risks, and they're also much more likely to bounce back after inevitable failure. Why is that? There's lots of theories. We carry the weight of our families, we carry the weight of our communities, we feel like we are responsible for making sure that not just our lives stay on track, but everybody else's lives stay on track. Those are the things that are happening to us, and certainly we should work on fixing them. I see lots of beautiful men in the room. You all have a part in this. But there's also things that we do to ourselves. And one of the things I'd like to encourage you to do is think about micro risks that you can teach yourself to take on a daily basis that will build your risk-taking muscle. What does that mean? I'm wearing a crazy blazer. This is definitely a weird color by any stretch of the imagination. I've never worn it before. I wasn't sure if it was going to look good on me. And the biggest failure that could have happened was that I thought I looked foolish. Maybe somebody else thought I looked foolish, but the outcome of taking that risk, not so bad. If you go to a restaurant and you're terrified to order something that you've never ordered before, or you don't want to go somewhere that you've never been, it's not entirely surprising that you don't want to completely change your career or move somewhere or chase your dreams. So my suggestion would be find those micro risks that feel comfortable and watch them start to build, because it really is a muscle. Once you sit in that failure and figure out that most of our failures are okay, we're going to brush ourselves off and we're going to do something different, we'll teach ourselves that taking some risks, we're okay with that. My last piece of advice. This one is a tricky one for me. So the picture on the left is a trip I helped organize. 200 of my best friends sailing around, having this epic party, and the word epic probably got said 60 times a day. That's my natural state. I love to live in the epic. But 18 months ago, I met my new best friend, and he's taught me a lot about why living in the epic is pretty difficult. For the parents in the room, you know that your control over your life becomes greatly reduced when somebody else is in the driver's seat, especially if they're very small. But the beautiful thing about it is that what I have learned from him is that these things fit together in a really harmonious way. We will be having the best, most epic moment, and literally 30 seconds we are having the worst, most unepic moment. And these are two sides of the same coin. Parenting my business has been somewhat of a similar lesson. In 2019, we grew 350%. I literally thought I was standing on top of the world. It seemed that we could do no wrong. We were exploding at the seams, hiring incredible people. Everyone I met was an Armoire customer. It was incredible. And I fell off the other side of the mountain very instantly. When COVID came, our business at the low was 20% of the size it is today. All of that work, all of my team's work, all of the money, all of the energy, it felt like all of it was gone. But in fact, it wasn't. And today, we're nearly double the size that we were at our peak in 2019. But the interesting thing is that we necessarily had to fall off the other side, because back to our physics lesson, if you are standing on the top, the bottom is the other part of the top. And part of our internal muscle in teaching ourselves to chase our dreams is to be okay with the fact that we will live up here and we will live down here. And to understand that these two things are part of the same coin. And that's what I hope will help you persist through the challenges that your big, bold dreams are going to lead you into. Remember that when you're standing up there and you fall off, it's okay, because you're going to crawl out at some stage and start climbing up the mountain again. So 3 things to remember. In order to chase your dreams, you do not have to jump off a cliff. But you do have to arrest inertia, teach yourself to take micro risks, and learn to love the balance. Be bold, my friends.
All right, wow. All right, we're almost at the end of the program tonight, but I think what Amibika said was really, truly remarkable. And so just to remember that those big, bold moves, they're not always big. Sometimes they're very kind of like a different itinerary, and there's like small steps and non-linear, but at the end of the day, they fit the path to purpose and meaning in your life. You gotta take that risk. And so it was really incredible to hear so many different stories, business owners and museum, creating music, taking a leap of faith, and just finding your voice as well. All incredible speakers. So I get to say thank you to everyone, if I can have the slides of everyone, and then I'll bring Nikki back on stage in a second. First of all, thank you to our sponsors. They're up on the screen right now. Up and Over Social Club, Premier Event, Run Studio. Yeah, round of applause, we can do that. Speed Pro, Eternal Water, W Marketplace, thank you. all the donors as well on the next slide as well. Thank you so much for helping making this a reality. I also want to thank the event team and everyone behind the scene, for everyone who has ever put an event together. It takes a village, and so their names are on the screen and they deserve a lot of kudos. One is here. Our incredible speakers also, thank you so much all our speakers for donating your time and preparation, for being here tonight. This beautiful venue, I had never been here. This is a fantastic venue. Thank you so much for offering the space. And thank you. That audience, you have been amazing, really engaged. I think you love the selfie, and so we can take some more selfie tonight and post. But thank you so much for coming tonight. And now it's my pleasure to bring Nikki one more time on stage. I think we're gonna select some winners. Okay, an innocent hand. Okay, ready? 335421. I follow what the boss says, and we're saying the numbers, but
you can look at the back and see if you can read the name.
That's really funny. Lisa Lederer. Woo! All right, the second one. I'm gonna do both. Rose 335357. Yay! Okay. Another Rose. 335356.
Better mix them up a bit.
How many more? We need a drum roll.
Have you got 3?
Yeah.
2 more.
2 more. Alara. 3, that's why the number is good. 335391. 335391. Abra. Okay, the last one.
Dig deep.
Yeah. This is very relaxing.
We haven't got all day.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Alison? 335440. Yes! Yay! All right.
Okay.
Nikki, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. What a wonderful MC. So every year, what we try to do is give you a couple of ideas of how you can be bold. So I'm going to channel Kate Eisler right now. As you know, she's the CEO of our sister company, the Women's Marketplace. And she often gets asked, how can I help women-owned businesses? Well, it's very simple, right? You can shop from them. If they're in e-commerce and they sell products and services, before you go on Amazon, go look at the women's marketplaces, like the W Marketplace, and there are others. Go and see if they've got what you're looking for. And then when you do and you have a great experience, spread the word. Tell everybody about it. Tell your friends, your colleagues, and everybody else, and encourage them to do the same. And then write a review, whether it's on social media or Google or any other review site. But one thing though, if the experience wasn't that good, contact the owner and say, I've got some feedback. I think there's some things that you can do differently, rather than put a public negative review online. And then also, partner. Partner, if you are a business, you get a twofer if you partner with women-owned businesses. Not only does it lift them up, but it lifts you up too. And then finally, attend events like this. Go to tastings, open houses that are run by women. Speak to the founders, learn about them, ask them questions, and say, how can I support you? So all very simple things that you can do. So we hope you're going to leave here inspired today. We hear this every year. The trouble is, though, inspiration on its own isn't enough. You need to take action to make a real difference. So this year, we are launching the Bold Action Workshop. It is a program for women who are ready to take action, but they just need a little help. We help them explore their values, their strengths, their why. We give them techniques and tools and guidance to get started on that bold action plan. So if you're interested in that program, we have informational sessions on the 23rd of May, and the cohort starts on the 31st of May. And it's 3 90-minute sessions, and we're offering a show special at $97. And you never know, you may take that program and then be up here on the stage next year sharing your bold story. Other things you can do. If you liked the Be Bold Girls program, who liked the Be Bold Girls program? You can get involved. We need students. We need student ambassadors. We need adults. And we need leaders who can run this program with our help in their local community. So fill in our form on our website. We will share this information tomorrow. It will be in your inbox. And we will reach out to you. So register how you would like to get involved. We also talked about the Bold Collective. So if you've recently been laid off or you lost your job, you're welcome to join our community. We would love to have you. And there we can send you information, more information on how you can join us on our bi-weekly calls. Today, we're announcing the launch of Be Bold for Change Giving Circle. The Giving Circle is a group of like-minded men and women, individuals, who want to get involved. They want to share their experiences and their talent, but they also want to regularly donate to our cause of emboldening and equipping women, girls, and allies to become change makers. And it's about small individual contributions that collectively drive big impact. In order to reach more people, expand to more cities, we need more board members. We need more volunteers. So if you go up on our website, beboldforchange.org right now, we have 8 open positions for board members, 8. And we really need a diverse set of skills and experience to help us expand. But if that board commitment is just too much, then we have lots of work committees and projects for you to join as volunteers. So all of these things you'll find on our website, beboldforchange.org, and I hope you'll take a look. So we have just one last treat for you. I'd like to invite Scarlet Parke back out on the stage to debut the song she wrote for our event. So I'll let you introduce it, Scarlet, but I just wanted to say and add my gratitude for everyone who came here tonight, who participated. This event is primarily brought about by volunteers. Most people don't get paid to do this event, and it's a lot of work, and I think the team did a stunning job today, so please give them a round of applause. So, thank you, and stay bold.
Also, I just want to give a quick shout out to Armoire and Amibika for this beautiful jacket. It is part of their collection, and you can also rent this jacket. So I just wanted to make sure you guys could know. Thank you. I just wrote this song. It's called Woman, and I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to mute this real quick. Thank you. All right.
lucid when I'm dreaming, I'm asleep when I'm awake. They say that the end is near and I shouldn't be afraid. But I was born in fire, I'm a dragon, you can't